well, I have created some code and uploaded to the blog. Here's the code here. I'm just going to run through how the code actually works, and you'll be able to figure out line by, I'll describe it line by line. So I'll hit F5 now. Hit F5 now. Okay, we just got to wait for the widget to appear. There it is over here. Okay, so what it has is an entry box that I insert some numbers into. It'll display the number here. It'll give me an average, and it'll also track how many times I've actually entered some scores into. So let's put some numbers in. See if it's working now. Okay, so that's it. So you'll see that I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 numbers entered. It says 5, and if you add all that up, the average is roughly 15. So it's doing what I wanted it to do. Okay, let's go through the code now line by line. So just remember there's a function here, and remember in Python, when you create a function, you need to indent every subsequent line underneath the function, otherwise it doesn't work. Python thinks it's broken out of the function. When you've broken the function, then the rest of it won't work. This section in here where it talks about BTN onwards, that's the actual GUI, that's the actual output. The key to the GUI for our case is this entry widget here, ENT equals entry. Now that's the widget where we're getting the text from. The variable is ENT. We've also got a couple of other outputs. This output here, average, LBL average, that's where we're pushing out the average. And we've got another one, LBL tracker, that's where we're tracking the amount of scores that we're putting in. We've also created here some background colour. So in this case that's red, in that case that's green. What I first do when the function is called is that I get the variable from the entry widget. We use the get method to do that. I've ran through that in class. One thing I really need to do at this stage is change the data type. Entry widgets just assume that the data is a string. I need to change that to an integer. I'm appending a list. So remember that the append method. I'm grabbing the variable word and I'm putting word at the end of the list. The list is a global list in this case, so here it is here outside of the function, so it's acting as a global variable. I'm then figuring out what the length is. If I can figure out what the length of the list is, I can track how many scores have been entered. I then can work out the total using the sum method, and then I could work out the average. So the average in this case will just be the total divided by the length, which gives me that. This is the magic bit of code for creating a line break variable for an integer. So what we're using is the map method, and we're converting with str, we're converting each integer into a data type which is string. Now remember, if it's an integer, it's a number, and the analogy I'm drawing is that if it's an actual string, it's more like a shape. You can't really add shapes up together, but you can add integers up together. This line of code, configure method is basically we're forcing whatever's in the brackets to be the new output. So in this case, the label configure text equals word. So in other words, this is the innings. So 5 or 6 or 8 or whatever innings was. It's going to put this into the label widget, but this case it's going to be a line break because that's what that bit of code here does. The next one down is the average output. Remember, we grab the variable average, the text equals average in this case, and then we've got tracker. We're tracking how many scores we've entered. Easiest way to do that is to actually get the length of the string. Now, in the outcome, I would expect you to use a lot of internal documentation. Internal documentation is lots of code. You need to make the code pretty. You need to make the code easy to read. Just think of that you're describing this code maybe to a Year 9, Year 10 student, or maybe a teacher at the college who doesn't know a lot about Python. So it needs to make sense to them, and you need to use a lot of white space as well. Don't cram the code up so it's hard to read. White space doesn't cost anything in code, and it's easy for me to read, therefore it's easy for me to mark. Okay, look forward to seeing how well you do in the outcome.